My name is Jeremy Stockwell. I'm an account technology strategist with Microsoft. I've been at the company now 4 years, and I'm actually based here in New Orleans, Louisiana. So I'm here to talk today about two hybrids. The first of which I'm going to go through is kind of hybrid multi-cloud architecture solutions and security, and what we are doing to support that in our customers. And then about halfway through, I'll pivot and talk about the future of hybrid work and what Ron was talking about and the disruption about how people are going to change the way that they view work and what companies are going to do to accommodate where they maybe didn't do some of these things before, and how we've done some research into that and what we're looking to and how we support it specifically through Microsoft Teams and some of the technology we produce for that. So moving into the excuse me. Moving into the hybrid cloud, multi-cloud architecture, we understand that today the customers' environments are not, there's a lot of things going on. We understand that there's an influx of new technology and platforms, applications run across diverse infrastructures and hosting environments, whether they're on-prem, they're colos, branch offices, multi-cloud. You have a lot of assets and a lot of technology that are out there. And to add to some of this, you've now got teams using different deployment tools. You've got teams located, in different geographies, especially working from home now, multinationally, globally. And so there's a lot of things that you need to, as an IT management, as a CIO, as an IT leader, as an executive for your company, think about how am I going to position myself and position the company to be technologically sound and to have the technology that's going to propel my company to be the best it can be and support the business. Because obviously, unless you're developing software, technology is supporting your business. I support several customers, one of which is a oil and gas customer. Technology, they're not selling technology, they're not selling IT. They're oil and gas, midstream, upstream. So the technology is supporting that. So how do you have those? How do you support those technologies? How do you manage them? How do you govern them? How do you secure them across all of the different landscapes that you have within the company? And so we here at Microsoft, we know that it's a reality that every customer is facing. We have positioned, obviously, we've got Windows Server that's already hybrid. You can run it in multiple environments. Other technologies run in multiple environments. And, we're here to help meet those challenges. And the way we help meet them is, looking for ways to support regulatory and data sovereignty. Some workloads may only be able to run in a specific region. I've got, especially with GDPR and some of the EU restrictions that have come online in the past, 4 to 5 years. Things like, even here in the States, you have in the state of California, you have data privacy and trust laws. You have other things like HIPAA and high tech and industry-specific things you need to consider when it comes to regulatory needs for your systems. Do you have systems that are out there on the edge? Do you have workloads deployed or equipment that's deployed that you need to monitor centrally? Because now you don't have people out there all the time managing those, especially in a COVID and a pandemic. You only have people going once every few weeks as opposed to like every other day to make sure that a piece of equipment, especially if you're looking offshore, some of those pieces of equipment, how you need to manage it. How do you then bring that low latency connection to them, and how do you manage those things in the edge as opposed to waiting for the command to come from a central environment back out to the edge in order to take the action or have the equipment take the action that it needs to prevent failure? You have a lot of investment, and a lot of companies, I work with Faces, have a lot of investment that you made on-prem, and how do you get the most out of that investment, right? Or how do you modernize that and add in the capabilities of cloud technologies and software as a service to propel and move your company forward and make sure it is poised to meet that next disruption or to propel your company forward to be the next innovative company in your industry. And then, it's very important. While I would love to say as a Microsoft, seller, as a technical seller, that, you should only use Azure, which obviously I say day in and day out, I realize there's a lot of options. And I'm not saying that we're necessarily right. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes you do need to have that on-prem, or you have your reasons to go to a colo, or you have your reasons to go to another public cloud provider. But we want to make sure that we're not locking you into a way to do that, but we're supporting your choice and your needs from a technology standpoint. And there's a lot of momentum behind this. We know that up to 90% of enterprises are deploying and depending on hybrid environments, according to Gartner. And we know that even more, 93%, have a multi-cloud strategy. Either they're doing it now or they know they're going to be multi-cloud in the future. And so how do we support that? Again, it's making sure that we're providing technology to support that, because the last thing that you need is more confusion in your environment, more panes of glass, and more management tools to go across all of these environments to support what you're trying to do and make it simpler for you so that you can go about on the really critical things that are in tasks that are necessary for your business and move forward and make your business that innovative one that the rest of your industry looks up to. And so from our standpoint, our hybrid multi-cloud solution, Azure Arc, it's something that it enables and standardized visibility, operations, and compliance across everywhere. It can be your on-prem data center. Obviously, we have it in Azure. You can deploy it and manage workloads and extend it to other public clouds. It even secures Windows, Linux, SQL, Kubernetes. It secures information and systems at the edge. And all of these things are done through a single management pane in Azure, right? I know, Google has their product, and it escapes me. Athos, I believe, is what it's called now. This is our solution as well, built on Azure, and obviously it's deeply embedded with our first-party technologies, Windows Server, SQL Server, and other pieces that are currently deployed in a lot of environments today in your data centers. We bring Azure services to any existing infrastructure, and you can take advantage of these benefits. So scalability, fast deployment, up-to-date cloud innovation. You can make sure that your governance, that you have policies set, that you're not deploying things in, say, AWS or Google or even your data center that don't meet a policy because you have that regulatory compliance you need to maintain. And so therefore, we have these standard server images that we have to make sure we're maintaining for those compliances to make sure that we're secure, make sure our data is encrypted. And then we also have the way to modernize existing data centers. We have our own solutions that we can bring in with Azure Stack, so that you can run cloud native applications on-prem. Now, it's not going to bring all of those applications or all those services on-prem, but it's a good number of them. And you can take advantage of your existing investments and still meet some of those regulatory and data sovereignty compliances. So again, if you have something, a customer I had a couple of years ago, they were a multinational global customer, and they had some regulatory restrictions because they had data sovereignty in Russia. And so this is a way to deploy cloud services and extend it to the environment so that to your data center, so that data can stay within the country it needs to and abide by those laws. And one of the last things you can do, again, moving out to the edge, we know there's a lot of computing, there's a lot of devices, there's a lot of equipment out there that needs that support. Extend it with Azure IoT. You can run machine learning, you can run advanced analytics closer to the user, closer to the equipment, closer to where the data resides, and you can get better real-time insights and immersive experiences at the edge network that helps open up new possibilities, that helps you react quicker, helps you avoid failure, helps avoid downtime, and brings more profitability back to your company. And so now through that, we're going to kind of dive into what makes you successful when you're deploying and adopting these hybrid technologies. So there's really four, kind of steps, or I'll say, 3 to 4 steps that go along with this. And, obviously migrate to Azure. We understand that. Love to see you do it, but understand, like we said, 93% multi-cloud strategy. So the first step is unified operations and management through Azure Arc, right? So if you run your workloads outside of Azure, you can use Arc to manage those workloads, like I mentioned, Windows servers, Linux servers, SQL, Kubernetes clusters, wherever they are, whether on-prem in a private cloud or in another public cloud. And once you've done that, you can extend services like Azure Policy, Monitor, Security Center, and Sentinel, which I'll actually get to later in this presentation. So you can manage, govern, and secure all of those resources. And it doesn't really matter where they live. The next step is really building cloud native apps to run Azure services anywhere. And so think, for example, Kubernetes or PaaS services, right? There's a lot of need. I have a customer I'm working with right now to modernize those apps into AKS clusters. And with Arc, and within the Azure portal, you can deploy a common set of Kubernetes configurations, again, wherever they live, so they're consistent. They're consistent around here across your environment, not just consistent in Azure if that's where that happens to be deployed. You've got another Kubernetes cluster in GCP or AWS or on-prem, and that's a different, that's got a different baseline to it. You can manage that single baseline across all of it. And it's a way where, and Arc also enables the developers to centrally code and deploy these applications and their code to AKS or other Kubernetes clusters using GitHub or other options, Visual Studio, other DevOps code repositories you may have. The third is, modernizing your data center. We understand this may not fit for everyone, but we've got a lot of ways that we can do that. I mentioned Azure Stack, I mentioned Azure Stack Edge. There's some other things that we can do there, but through things like, even Arc-enabled data services within the SQL environment, you can fully automate updates that applies, to multiple SQL instances, applies to Postgres databases that could be running Azure Arc. You can also manage data assets running on-prem, along with those that are in Azure, along with those that are in another cloud provider, private or public, right out of the Azure portal, right out of the data studio in Azure command line interface. You don't have to go to multiple portals to do this. You do it all in one place with Azure Arc. And then you get the automation and the elastic support for all the data workloads running wherever they are. And you don't have to worry about, again, you got a single pane of glass to do that. And then finally, again, modern data center, if it fits you, again, for different reasons, regulatory or otherwise, Azure Stack being able to bring those cloud services down to your on-prem data center so that you can take advantage of that where you are if the need presents itself. So again, we're going to dive a little deeper into all these, and the first one I'm going to talk to is unifying operations and management with Azure Arc, and this is where we get into organizing and inventorying what you have, monitoring, updating, again, making sure that all those pieces have the same baseline, they have the same patches applied, and govern and secure all of those, extending DLP, extending Azure Security or other security services down to those processes and those services that aren't running in Azure, and making sure that there are those consistencies across all of your environments. And so we've got a few things that support this. Arc-enabled SQL servers. They support Windows Server, a wide range of Linux operating systems to support data management and consistency. And on an Arc-enabled SQL server, which I don't know, I think it may be out of preview now, or it's out of public preview and generally available, or it's still in public preview, but you can actually govern your inventory and take advantage of Azure Security and support the SQL management from a security perspective, so that you're ensuring your database is not only secure but optimally tuned, and they're going to support the workloads that are tagging back into it to get querying and get data out of it. And then finally, obviously, we have Arc-enabled Kubernetes to support all of those new modernized applications that you're deploying into Kubernetes clusters wherever they may live. And I've got a couple of examples on the slides that you'll get for different case studies and quotes that we've got from customers that you'll have available to you after the webinar today. So the next one that we had going down step 2 was cloud-enabled. Build cloud native apps. And I can't tell you, I think all of my customers, with the exception of maybe one, is really thinking about how do I look at and rationalize my application portfolio to run on modern services, whether that's Kubernetes, PaaS services, or something else. But when it comes to development, want to get out of having to worry about patching SQL, patching Windows Server, or relying on infrastructure teams to support or give them what they need, and being able to do deployment and consistent updates and faster deployments to deliver better capabilities to end users within the business or customers in certain examples. So we're seeing all more modern applications being built on Kubernetes across clouds, and we want to ensure that when you do this, you're offering solutions to your organizations, to your customers that are consistent. And so using Arc-enabled Kubernetes, we support a wide range of Kubernetes distributions across different vendors. You can connect all of these clusters to Azure and start deploying applications through Arc on using GitHub. You can also enable cluster health monitoring for containers, and you can actually look at integration with Azure Policy. So you can actually take the policy that was previously there just within Azure for servers, other pieces where it would say, okay, it has to be deployed this way. You can now extend this to AKS clusters in Azure and use Azure Arc to extend it even further across your environment in those Kubernetes clusters that aren't in Azure. And again, I have a couple other customer examples here and quotes that you can see later on or read later on. The third is running Azure services anywhere. There's a couple key benefits that Azure Arc offers when it comes to this topic, and you can innovate with the latest cloud native services. Again, some of these things would take a while to come down to your data center, specifically through things like Windows Server or SQL Server or others, because we're continuously innovating and continuously deploying in the cloud, and we want to make sure we're managing these tools and running them. So you can run machine learning wherever your data lives. You can run leverage infrastructure, security and regulatory requirements, and it's all done through a single pane of glass. And it's through Arc-enabled machine learning, Arc-enabled data services with SQL, and it's all done from a single point, no matter where your services and your data lives. And finally, the last one is modernizing your data estate. It can be running infrastructure on Kubernetes. It can be using for SQL managed instance, so you're taking the management out of it. You can run database on Postgres if that's the right thing for your application. Again, fully automated, controlled by your policy, connected into Azure Arc, supports the hyperscale for deployment of Azure Database and Postgres SQL, and allows to do things like scale up, scale down, and other pieces where those services are living, and gives ability to use a single pane of glass with familiar tools in the Azure portal, Data Studio, CLI, so you can manage and govern those no matter where you are. And then the last piece I'll talk to before I get to the security, and I'm sorry I'm going fast, I know there's a lot of information, but Azure Stack, HCI is our hyper-converged solution that brings those cloud services down to your data center. We also have Compute AI and IoT at the edge with Azure Stack Edge. We also have Azure Stack Hub, and these are all Azure connected services, all can be managed through Azure Arc and move to support bringing those cloud native services wherever you may need them, all managed through Azure and Azure Arc. So while those are all talking about the benefits to moving to hybrid and how to do it, I'm going to pivot really quick to talk about Azure Security and Azure Security Center and Azure Defender, and leveraging Arc to bring those security services down to your environments wherever they are, whether they're in Azure on-prem, another public cloud provider, or private. Within the multi-cloud posture, you can use things like Secure Score, you can use policies and compliance and automation, but that will all give you insight into what are the necessary steps you need to take. Azure Defender is that next step forward, and it leverages Azure Arc to extend security into your servers, cloud-native workloads, storage, and other pieces, IoT devices that allow you to really secure and harden your environment and to get insight and take automated remediation when it's connected to things like Sentinel, so that you're not having to spend so much time worrying about, okay, am I secure? Do I have enough? Do I have defense in depth? Do I have, all these pieces are spread so far out. Do I have the right management and security pieces in place to really govern all of them? Again, it extends across all of the solutions. You have it across, all the major public cloud providers, including us. You can extend to your on-prem, and it supports, making sure you have that single pane of glass, especially when you're looking for a way to bring in all of these disparate workloads, manage them, make sure they're all secure, same policies, same security patches, same, highlight those insights and highlight those alerts so that you can take immediate action before it's too late. Now, I know we have a representative coming on later to talk about our security posture, Zero Trust. This is a way to extend that into the resources running in your data center. We always say assume breach, and this is a way to give you the insight to manage that, manage it efficiently, and manage it holistically across your entire IT landscape. Sentinel, when tied into Azure Defender, when tied in some of our Microsoft 365 services, such as Microsoft Defender, Defender for Endpoint, it provides you a very, very comprehensive security solution across your entire environment, not just server, not just data center now, not just cloud, but also even your endpoints in your devices and IoT. So we understand that the threat landscape, it's more complex, it's more sophisticated, and Sentinel is the way and our solution for providing the aggregation, the alerting, the machine learning and the artificial intelligence behind correlating these events across these different signals. I've got a threat coming from a Windows device. I've got a brute force attack on a server over here. I've got lateral movement between these servers over here, and correlating that to take a automatic response before that bad actor has a chance to really do any damage within your environment. And it closes the gaps, it closes the time between breach and remediation, and it helps you really drive efficiency in managing your security across your entire environment. I have a customer, healthcare customer, that just deployed Sentinel about a year ago now. They have one person managing the security, or the head of security. I'm sure they have multiple people and everyone's security conscious, but one person managing this. And he was able to set it up so that the other day, he told me they had a server that was deployed, had ports left open, and someone was trying to brute force attack it from externally. Sentinel caught it, Defender caught it, reported it to Sentinel, automatically shut it down, took remediation within the hour, so that that VM was shut down, that actor couldn't get in, and it was already taken care of, and then it could be addressed later on by whoever spun up that server. So that's the type of thing we're talking about, is not giving the actors the chance, or shortening the window where they have the opportunity to actually infiltrate and do something bad within your environment. As I mentioned, Azure Defender for servers, in that example I just gave you, it blocks malware, it blocks different attacks, lateral movements, brute force. It's able to detect those, report it back, aggregate it, and allow you to take those automated responses through playbooks and other things that you've set up within that's specific to your environment, so that you can make sure that you're protected in case not in case these things happen, but when they happen. Because nowadays it's not an in case, it's a when. It's just one of those things that it's bound to happen to everyone at a certain point. Obviously, security with the pipeline that was just hacked for ransomware. I think security, if it's always coming back to the forefront. If someone else is getting hacked, it's affecting national infrastructure. We just have to be clear, and these are the ways: Defender for Servers, Sentinel, Security Center, all of our M365 security solutions, they all provide the way to do that. There's things, again, limited, going from Arc down, there's other things we can do to support policies like network security groups, firewall rules, that sort of thing, that allow for more granular management and protection of services regardless of where they're running. And we know that it's a lot of pieces and parts and moving parts, and we're hoping that through our services for hybrid multi-cloud, it provides you that single pane of glass that you can see everything and be able to better respond, as opposed to going to check multiple portals and dashboards to make sense of it, correlate it in your own mind. Sentinel takes care of that for you, automatically responds, and gives you that peace of mind that, okay, if something bad does happen, I can catch it right away, or the machine learning of Sentinel will catch it right away and notify me of what I need to do and the next steps are. Defender for SQL kind of takes it a step forward, and this is actually through Azure Arc. I've got another customer deploying this right now. Governance around the data. That's the big thing here, is how are you protecting the data within SQL too? And Defender for Arc, or Defender for SQL, provides that management when you're extending it through Arc to a SQL server, on-prem or in Azure. And so it detects attempts to breach SQL servers, to grab data out of it. It also does vulnerability assessments across the SQL estate. So it lets you know, hey, this port is open, or hey, this data isn't encrypted and it should be, or hey, this database on this SQL server doesn't follow the policy or the guidelines you have set for the rest of your environment. You need to take action. Something else that we can deploy and extend to your SQL environment wherever it may live. This is another one, Defender for Storage. Again, it reaches into various storage services, whether it's Azure, whether it's other on-prem or cloud services, and allows you to deploy our Azure native security to those services, provides relevant recommendations to harden storage. I've heard stories about, hey, this S3 bucket was left open without a password or with just the default password. It goes out, it finds those things, it queries, and it gives you the security artificial intelligence to actually make sure and build off of the other signals we have coming in from other environments, not just yours, others, to say, hey, we've seen this going on over this other customer. Let's notify everyone else because this seems to be not just a one-off, but someone going out trying to try something across the board. And that's really the benefit of our security solutions. It's not just signals coming from your services that are deployed, it's signals from across all organizations.
Hey, Jeremy? Jeremy,
yes, sir.
We want to keep things moving on, but I did want to just give it a little interaction before we move on to Teams. Chris from Plycards, big digital cards, gift cards, was curious if you have file level detail that you can provide for compliance reasons to identify who might have changed documentation.
That is going to be done. It depends, but that is going to be done through our M365 suite of services, security services. So things like Azure Information, or actually it's now Microsoft Information Protection, and being able to apply policies and governance across those. We have solutions around real-time scanning for information and supported document types, specifically within Office 365 services as well that extend to on-prem file servers. So we have that. It's not necessarily included in this, but it does. We do have the service that extends to that, and those signals can then be fed back into Sentinel and used for correlation based on other bad signals that may be coming from your environment.
Got it. So for this and any other question that anyone has, even if Jeremy in his limited time can't directly address it, we'll make sure we get you an answer afterwards. All yours as if you can, try and finish up as we move on to Teams.
Yeah, I'm gonna run through this. Obviously, Defender extends to Kubernetes as well. I have some next steps on here. What you can look at, and then just here's the URL for our hybrid solutions. I invite you to join to that. As Ron said, if you have any questions on hybrid, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to discuss more. So I'm gonna pause for 1 second while I switch my presentations, and let's see here, and that one, and start this one. And I'm going to, I know I have a lot, and I'm going to go through as fast as I can, so I apologize for the...
All good stuff. So the key thing is, all this content is all going to be available for downloading. All yours, yes. Jeremy.
All available. So there's a lot of content here, so I'm going to go through it quick. If anything else the pandemic said, the pandemic for sure, but we know that every business is going to be driven by the speed of their transformation. COVID was the epitome of that. This is something our CEO said in one of our earnings calls, and we realize, and I think everyone realizes that our technology is supporting our business, and our business can only go so far before either it pulls the technology forward or our technology enables the business to move forward. And obviously with that, hybrid work is one of the things we know going forward is the future. The pandemic, everyone started working from home except for those frontline workers. But how do we keep connected? In Teams, we have the ways to do that through calling. We are able to collaborate in real time. We're able to simplify the way you work because we provide that one application. Really, it's a platform. I don't refer to Teams as an application. It's more of a platform that enables you to stay within one spot and collaborate seamlessly, work more efficiently, and provide you with the tool that you need to get your job done wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you're at home, if you're at the office, if you're at the airport when things open up or traveling again. But that's really the future of that we see it, and how things are going to move forward when it comes to hybrid work and work in the future in general. So obviously more online meetings than ever. Are they productive? We say that we did a lot of study. We did a lot of research. We say that 60% of people are feeling less connected since they moved to remote work. So how does that impact you? How does it impact you as a company? Well, we have ways that through Teams that keep you connected, right? It's not, I'm first to admit this. It's not the best because it's you're not getting that personal interaction, but you do have the ability to just quickly, wherever you are, do a one-on-one call or a one-on-one meeting with whoever you need to, your team or external. I call customers through Teams directly all the time. They have it set up, or I can call directly through Teams to their cell phone if I need to. stay connected, group meetings, make sure that we've built in things like together mode and other solutions that make sure that you're heard, you're included, and that you are not feeling left out of the conversation. Because I believe that everyone has a voice to say what they need to in a meeting, and I try to be as respectful as I can to make sure before we hang up, I go to everyone in the meeting and say, hey, any other thoughts, questions, because I don't want anyone to feel left out. And we've built in different tools and things into Teams that allows it makes that easier to do, and it makes individuals feel more apt to speak up and have the ability to speak up and not worry about staying silent. And obviously, I mentioned earlier, for those who had joined, we've increased the capacity for some of our live events and webinars. We're now up to 20,000 attendees. I told Ron after this, we're going to make these all Teams events, even for non-Microsoft webinars.
Absolutely.
And so we've got, we've done a lot with that because we realize everything's online now. And so we, like our competitors, I don't want to diminish that because they worked on doing this too, but we realize that this is something that is going to be necessary, not just for now, but in the future. We've got all of these things that are, it's just meetings don't move the ball forward. Although I think we're all in, keep hearing it called Zoom fatigue. I call it Teams fatigue, but it's you get kind of burned out. I know my wife, who didn't work, she worked in an office and then she was working from home. She's just burned out because we're all on meetings, and that's not enough to do your job. Just being in meetings is not enough to do your job. So Teams brings in things like file storage, the back end of which is SharePoint Online. Tasks to make sure you're keeping track of your to-dos. It brings in the Office apps. It brings in things like Whiteboard and other solutions that can be tapped into through the Graph API, whether they're first-party Microsoft or the third-party. And so it really makes Teams that way that you can do work, again, from anywhere. It gives you the ability to set up digital teamwork and make sure that, teams feel included, individual team members feel included. They can work together even though they're not in the same place. They can collaborate on deliverables in real time. I can see someone co-authoring a Word document with me, a PowerPoint presentation with me in real time, and I can be chatting with them on Teams in real time, or having a one-on-one meeting with them in real time to do that. We know that moving forward, over 80% of managers, companies, they know they're going to have some sort of flexible policy going forward. And so, we need the way through Teams, and we've built in the capabilities through Teams to collaborate from anywhere. We've built in ways to organize teams through Teams channels, even, the evolution of private channels, so that I can have a channel, if it's just, a smaller group working on a project that may be, secret, no one else needs to see, I can create that private channel for those users and my team members that only need access to it. All plans, tasks, lists, files, they all live in one place, and they're accessible to everyone on that team. Chat history is accessible to everyone. We can create and share content, like I said, in real time. I can mention people. I can automatically, link to the documents. All they have to do is click on the icon or click on the link. It brings it right up in Teams. They can do what they need to do. They never have to leave that app. They never have to leave that window to go search. Okay, where is it in File Explorer? I got to open it up. Okay, it's opening up in Word. I got to put it over here. I got to make sure it's saved back and closed, because while I have it open, this other person, it's locked for them. It takes all that out, and it just increases productivity immensely. And it helps you stay in sync because you're not missing something. You can go back and see chats and see the chat history so that you can quickly onboard. New employees can come into a project and quickly onboard and come up to speed and see what's happened over time. And they can kind of fill themselves in and not waste time hitting the ground running, and be able to jump in and contribute immediately when they're brought onto something. And Ron earlier, and I mentioned earlier, frontline workers, obviously they were a big part of this pandemic. And 80% of the workforce globally is frontline workers. But do they have the right tools to do their job? And so, on a Forrester study that we commissioned, it said less than 25% feel like they have the tools to do their job. So how do we support that through Teams? So we obviously provide the Teams app for frontline workers. They can have it on their mobile phone, iOS or Android. Pretty much feature parity across the board. They can connect using chat just like we can on the desktop app. Video calls. There's even the walkie-talkie feature. If you ever remember the old Nortel push to talk, we now have that walkie-talkie feature built into Teams. We have things built in like shifts. It's a first-party solution inside of Teams where you can manage. If I'm managing a grocery store and I'm trying to figure out who's coming in, different shifts, different times of the day, that can all be managed through the Shifts app within Teams. And oh, by the way, all of my team members on there can see it, see when they're set up or when they're signed up to work. And oh, I need this time off because I'm scheduled or switched. I can do that directly in Teams, in a Teams chat. I don't have to go make a phone call anymore. And it's logged. It streamlines task delegation with things like Planner, or tasks, so that you can assign things and they get notifications. You can respond or ask questions in real time, and reorganize and engage your community. It can be not just your workers, but just those people, customers, other ways to re-engage through built-in apps, first-party apps like Yammer, and we have a whole bunch of third-party apps that are built in too. Training apps, other Microsoft partners that have built apps that are integrated and run on top of Teams to provide even the additional capabilities that we've provided through first-party and Teams inherent services. And so I want to go off of that and talk about kind of resilience now coming out of the pandemic, hybrid work. What does that mean? When we talk about, when we go out and talk to leaders and they're grappling with, okay, how am I going to open back up? What's the future hold for me? How am I going to make this sustainable for my people? I mean, am I going to do a flexible work environment? Obviously different people have different needs. I have young kids, so my wife and I have different needs of, someone who, a younger person who may not have kids, or for someone who's older, whose kids are in college. It's just, there's all those different permutations of what do I need as a manager and as a leader in my organization be able to offer, so that it's an easier way to break back into the working environment when people do return to the office, if they haven't returned already. And so we focused a lot of time on what can we support through Teams to help make this easier, to help keep teams connected, even more so than the solutions that we have already delivered through Teams and the Teams app. We've analyzed a lot of data from our services. We've done a lot of interviews. We've done a lot of investment in that. And so what we've seen is there's really 6 key elements to an employee experience. And this is done through a partnership we have with LinkedIn, obviously one of our companies in Glen, that well-being, empowerment, growth, purpose, focus, connection, those are all key elements to an employee's experience. Not just their experience, but how they grow in a company. I mean, you obviously have good employees. You want to maintain, you want to retain them. You want to make sure that you are the place they want to work. And these are some of the key things to keeping your organization and your company as a premier place where people seek out employment, seek out a job, and want to work there and want to stay and want to grow and contribute over decades, hopefully, to come. And so with that in mind, we've kind of looked at what is in this employee experience platform, right, that supports these 6 elements. Things like communication, insights, knowledge, and learning, well-being, having virtual communities within the workplace. All of these go into those 6 elements, and people want to feel more connected. They want to feel like they have an impact on the job. I know for me personally, I struggled with at the beginning of the pandemic. Am I really having any impact with my customers? Like I want to, I love being in front of them, love seeing them, but am I having that impact? And so with that, we looked at, okay, what is the employee experience platform look like moving forward? And we knew we needed a new approach, and what is the new approach to that? And so with it, we've introduced Microsoft Viva. Viva is right now going to be 4 tools or 4 solutions that are built on top of Teams. It's connections, insights, topics, and learning. And all of these things, again, we've built these through foundational capabilities like Yammer, SharePoint Stream, Workplace Analytics, Search, LinkedIn, Learning. They're all there today. We're just bringing them forward into a much easier to consume solution and an easier to consume capability, so that these 4 modules to start with, there's others that are coming and on the roadmap, that they have ways that employees can feel and stay connected. It's a company branded app. I'm not just looking at a Teams app anymore. I'm looking at something that feels like my company developed. Insights, who am I connecting with? Who am I talking to? Do I need to reach out to other people? Do I work with this person so much, and is there a reason I'm seeing, I've got tasks that are due for other people. I love the insights piece because I may have said something in an email, forgot about it, but insights picks it up and I go, oh, I got to go respond to that person. Topics as knowledge and expertise allows you to organize them, allows you to kind of look through, okay, I'm interested in these things. What are the most relevant topics for me to go read and help keep up to date? It's kind of like a Wikipedia for enterprises, if you think of it that way. And then learning. How do I offer learning to my employees in a way that they can consume? So things like LinkedIn Learning behind it that allows employees to grow in their skills and to continue to produce for my company and to provide productivity and provide profitability to my company organization for years and decades to come. Again, I know I'm at close to time, so I'm going to kind of really fly through these last slides. There's the organizational layer. We're doing all of this with people at the center when it comes to Viva. Powerful insights built on the data that's within Office 365. Obviously, we built it all on security. The Teams, Viva, it is all built on our secure platform. We understand trust is the number one thing. Your data is your data. It's not going anywhere, and all of this is done within your organization, within your tenant. You have the ability to turn on and turn off certain things at any time. So it's up to you. It's up to, but we want to at least give you the tools and the capabilities to do that. And it's all built within the platform of the ecosystem you already know when it comes to Office 365. Again, all the compliance, all the security is built into it. So we have, data loss prevention. We have security around the application. We have security around meetings and conferencing. Identity protection to make sure that people only have people are who they say they are when they access the application, and that they're authorized to see the data that they can see and not that they can't. And protect against cyber threats and 90 plus regulations across the globe. And so obviously, with that, we've got a lot of momentum around Teams. We've got over 115 million active users. I meant to look up what the current number is right now, but that was the latest that we have. I think this was earlier it was either end of 2020 or earlier 2021. We have 1,800 organizations that I got over 10,000 users. We've got so many meetings, collaboration minutes in a single day. It's just amazing. I understand there was a little bit of an impetus for companies to start using this if they weren't using it already, but it's amazing to me how many companies, organizations have adopted this so quickly, given what the COVID brought on. These are just some organizations that run. I'm not going to get into them. You can see this when you get the slides. And I just wanted to throw in here, and again, I'm not going to go through this list ad nauseum, but these are just, the capabilities that were delivered in 2021 alone for Microsoft Teams, and then it needs 2 slides to do it. So I've actually put in the appendix all of the capabilities we delivered in 2020, which is even longer than this, and then 2019 and 2018. I hope, I understand I had to run through this pretty quickly in the time allotted. Reach out to, I'm happy to reach out to any questions. If you know who your Microsoft account team is, your customer success manager, your AE, your ATS, reach out to them with any questions on Teams. If you need help connecting with them, don't know who they are, I'm happy to look them up for you. But I hope this is, kind of giving you an insight into where we're going with Teams, what we're trying to bring forward to help employees, to help people feel connected, and to feel like they have a place and that they can share ideas, they can collaborate seamlessly and effectively, regardless of where they are, at home, returning to work, or somewhere in between. So with that, thank you. Again, I know it was pretty quick, but I appreciate the time today. I think I got that done in 3 minutes to spare, and happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Fantastic, Jeremy. One question from Kenneth, the CIO from IAC. He was wondering maybe you could comment on the integration of live chat within Teams. And I'm sure that's part of the Viva platform.
Live chat when it comes to webinars and
or maybe just general interaction, I think.
Yeah, it's there today. I guess I would need a little more specifics, but live chat is there when it comes to webinars. You have the whole chat window, but like this webinar, it's structured and it's moderated, so you don't have the interaction between different users and meetings. But live chat is always there through meetings. I'm chatting. If I'm on mute and I have something to come up, I don't want to interrupt something, I always chat it really quick so I can hit enter, and then if I need to get back to it, I do. live chats within Teams. I mean, it's the persistent chat within Teams, which is really the capability. So new people come on, they're onboarded, added to a team, they can see that history. And again, with live events and webinars, there's the moderated chat that's there, that's live as the event is going on. So I hope that answers the question.
That's perfect.
I'm not sure.
And what Jeremy will see in his inbox is an email with Kenneth, and also copying one of our future speakers, Jay Kamar, who's in the DC area, might be able to help. Chris, and I'll try and do one more question for you as I simultaneously turn off my camera, and we'll queue up our presentation by Trend Micro. We did have another question from Chris, and let me just give you a little context here. Make sure I've got Chris, who's with Seattle Genetics. His question was, any licensing, is there additional licensing to get the whole Viva suite versus licensing just Teams?
There is, so things like workplace analytics, LinkedIn Learning, there are other pieces that would be required depending on how you're going to set up the learn. Say you're setting up, insights, setting up learning, those two tools within Viva. I believe there are other ways you can set up other capabilities underneath that, but to get the rich insights, there are going to be other licensing implications to it. Again, I'm happy to address that, or I can, point you to your Microsoft account team, account exec or ATS or CSM if you have one, for more conversation on that. But depending on what you have today, it could require more than just a Teams license, and perhaps more than what you have access to today through your enterprise agreement or through whatever Microsoft agreement you have.